Well, everybody, we did not want to say we told you so, but we told you so.
Strong and wild, we rise up high. Conquer fears, won't let them reside. Heartbeats pound as we take the dive. Living now feels so alive. Heart steel veins glowing bright. Fitness gone in the dead of night. Fading game, we got the sight. Crushing finance, career out of sight. Men of now, we own it true. Breaking change, just me and you. Success stories everywhere. Living life beyond compare.
Welcome, everyone. It's Renegade Wingman here, and just excited to have everybody here. But before I get a little too further into what we'll be talking about or discussing today, I do have to intro some very, very fun people. So, we've got my other hosts here at the Men of Now. We've got the Husband, Philly's best dating coach, and we also have Kevin, your big brother from another mother. How are you guys doing today?
Wealthy.
Love it, right? How about the markets, guys? How about that? Financial movement.
Oh man,
For a good 11 months, they're saying like, "Hey guys, like, pay attention because after money's just sitting on the side trying to figure out which direction it's going to flow once the election goes, and then lo and behold, after election, here we are. We find ourselves in this very interesting times where some momentum has really started to kick off and springboard, which has made a lot of people happy, but a lot of people are been kind of scratching their heads and are like, well, Bitcoin. I mean, I can't tell you over the last week how many phone calls and text messages I've gotten from people. Hey, so Bitcoin's at this new all-time high. Should I buy it now? When it's like, if you've been paying attention to literally what I've been saying for a long time now, like that's when you kind of want to pack your bags. So the topic for today's show, I'm really excited to kind of get into and dive into because we're talking about how you guys need to pay attention to things in order to position yourself very well in order to capitalize. So, for example, if you guys have been paying attention to a lot of our podcasts or, a lot of things that we've been posting, a lot of things that we've been saying, even some of the webinars that we've hosted, you would be doing fairly well right now. And there's definitely been quite a few guys that have been listening and paying attention. And, right now in a week, they've seen some of their investments go up by as much as 50, 60, 70%. And so, again, this is just a very small use case and example. But, the real key thing that we want to drive in on today is just, making sure you're paying attention because there's clues for opportunities everywhere out there for yourself. But I'll turn it back to these guys and pose the question. How interesting has this last week been for you guys? And how many different conversations have you had with people that were caught completely by surprise? And then other people that were like, no, I was prepared for this.
Yeah, I'll go first on that. Like I knew because I remember back in 2016 when Trump pulled off the most surprising win as the presidency. And I saw what happened in the markets the next day. And when I say the markets, I mean the Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the normal markets, the old guy markets like myself. And so I knew there was going to be something special happen on November 6th if November 5th Donald Trump became president. And no, I wasn't surprised. However, I am very surprised and now a lot more open-minded of what I've seen, what's happened in the crypto world, especially with Bitcoin. I will be the first one to admit that 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when this new cryptocurrency, this fake money that's mined online hit the scene, that I was probably the biggest skeptic out there. I wouldn't have anything to do with it. Wasn't even interested. Saw these young kids becoming millionaires and me being my typical old school self, be like, they'll be broke in a year. However, I got to meet my good friend Josh. Got to meet another really good friend of mine now, a guy named Dylan Brantley that I met through Jaron Scott, who is another good friend of the whole group that we have, and changed my mind. And well, Josh, you can come back up here. What was it, about 11 months ago, 12 months ago, when they talked about the halving that was going to happen with Bitcoin? And that's when I saw it drop to about 35,000 a coin. And I said, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice here. I'm going to believe in what my friends are telling me. Plus, we're at about a 10-year cycle with Bitcoin. And anybody who's been investing for a long time know that when it comes to ETFs, mutual funds, dividend paying stocks, you always want to look at about a 10-year track record. And so Bitcoins have been around that long. So I invested 25,000 right up front, and I've been doing $50 a week since then. That's about 11 months ago. So now I'm at 0.75 coin. However, I've only got about 30,000 invested in it. If you look what 0.75 coin will have you right now, and I'm probably saying that wrong, Josh, but you can see my Valet wallet in the back there where I keep it. It's been one of the funnest things and one of the most profitable things that I've done with my investing career over the 46 years that I've been on this earth.
That's some pretty powerful insight there. Huds, what do you think about, what you've seen from the conversations you've had with people?
It's very interesting. Most of the people I talk to, like that I talked about investing with, they all knew it was coming, but it almost was like everything leading up to the election was a little quiet, which I thought was strange. Because I was actually a little surprised with how much everything boomed after Donald Trump won. And it seemed like nobody was really talking about it anymore. Either it was because they didn't believe he was going to win, or because they were so sure he was going to win. But I have to say, this is such an exciting time. When I think about the knowledge that I gained from talking with you guys, and especially through the webinars that we've done, Josh, you just you're so articulate and you're so accurate. It's like actually wild how accurate you are on this stuff. And one of the biggest things about all of this, what it taught me is patience. I keep getting reminded about patience. It's just the way that my nature is, that I'm just naturally impatient. But I keep getting lessons in my life that show me that by being patient always rewards. I'm seeing that right there with everything that has gone on with crypto markets, everything that has gone on with the general stock market, all of this. It just requires patience. And then that return on investment it's insane. I mean, you're never going to get the crazy gains that they did from Bitcoin, like from the very start. But even today, I opened up my MetaMask, which I don't really use that much anymore. I'm being old man style like Kevin, and I'm just doing like Coinbase stuff right now for smaller deposits. But I finally opened MetaMask, and one of my coins had 3x'd just in the past week alone, and I'm like, huh. Well, it's nice to have a rainy day fund. I'm going to go ahead and take some of this money right now. So it's really been a fascinating time to see unfold.
Yeah, and again, we're not necessarily making the theme of today, right, purely about cryptocurrency, but for an example, we are just using this as a use case of, if you guys, are paying attention or you like the things that we have, we definitely encourage you guys to, reach out. Even though enrollment right now is closed, we definitely will be having another open enrollment session starting around January. So we'd love to have you guys in there. But, if you guys don't believe that know a few things about what we talk about, then please feel free, go back through our past content library, watch our old shows, watch back in March and in April, where we were hosting a webinar talking specifically about how to position yourself to win in this very specific market, going forward during this year, but also going into next year. So there were guys that were definitely paying attention, and they're doing very well. I'm really happy right now, but also are continuing to look forward and excited about a lot of the stuff that's coming up. But crypto isn't the only thing that we've talked about. We've talked about and covered a lot of different things. And so now that there's a lot of general momentum, general shift, general movement that's happening, that's very, very much, the time is kind of now, where if you've been paying attention over the last year, you're really going to be positioning yourself very, very well to do very well. So, I guess the question I pose to you guys, and I'll start with HUD's first on this question. The question I have is, what other opportunities and areas have we been talking about and discussing that, I'm not having to list all of them, but, maybe one or two other areas that we've really talked about and discussed that, things are making some nice little movement or getting prepared to make some nice movement going into the next year for. I'll leave that to you, Hudson, with that question.
No, it's a good question, and nothing's actually coming to my head right now because I'm literally an analytical mind, so I'm just thinking numbers and money. You mean abstract? Like, are we talking some of the other topics we've had when it comes to dating or career, or is that career?
Because we've had some very good stuff on the career front that we've discussed.
Yeah, and when it comes to the career front, it really has been wild. I've learned it myself. Josh has been working remotely for most of his career, or at least for a good chunk of time. And this job that I got, I guess, around the time that we even started Men of Now, is completely remote, and I have never been happier in my entire life. It's absolutely insane to have a situation where you're respected for the work you do, you like the people you work with, and you're paid appropriately for the work done. It's really bizarre, but it's been absolutely fantastic. I know we've worked with some of the guys within the group in private conversations, and I know we've talked a little bit, probably on some of the live streams about it. But just the leaps and bounds and promotions that guys have been able to make is nothing short of just extremely commendable. And so what I see actually going forward is that in this next year, in 2025, there's going to be more opportunity than ever. Everybody is scared about the job market and the economy, which it doesn't look like they should be scared anymore. But again, got to look at all the numbers, and that's a whole deep discussion we don't need to do. But there's going to be more opportunities than ever, especially as Trump is just pushing forward some of these tariffs that are going to block some of the other companies from wanting to sell their products to the U.S. Because it's going to cost more, and then we can beat them out. There's going to be so much opportunity. So I mean, just as a whole, seeing how the stock market moved, seeing how the crypto market moved, and then look forward to seeing how the job market is going to move very, very soon.
Anything you want to add to that, Kevin?
No, I can definitely agree with it. I want to circle back to what you said earlier, HUDs, about learning patience, especially when it comes to investing, when it comes to, everything, leveling up in life, leveling up in your career. Not wanting everything right then and being comfortable where you're at, but then laying the groundwork. One thing that the group has really helped me with is, I'm doing well in my career and I'm still want to help guys, but it gave me the motivation to go get my certified financial coaching diploma. And I want to keep doing stuff like that. And if I didn't have friends around me like Josh, other members of the group, to motivate me to want to continue to get better, I don't think I would. So, and, when it comes to what we were kind of talking about when watching markets, watching things go down, things go up, that's what we really need to take from this, is to see what the trends are, because we saw what happened when 2016, gas prices were down, grocery prices were down. And I'm not just making this all about Trump good, Biden bad, but look what happened in less than 4 years. I mean, it took 2 years for everything to get very expensive very fast. And I'm not saying blame any certain person, but as men, we need to set ourselves up that we're prepared for a dip or an ebb and flow like that. So that way it doesn't crush us. It doesn't stress us out. It doesn't give us high blood pressure. And being patient and laying the groundwork to a good financial foundation, career foundation, friendship foundation will help you through that. Because I saw a lot of guys, man, that really hinged what their future was on the government and who was going to be in the government. And we can set ourselves up that it doesn't have to be that way by having patience and laying the groundwork. I think that's what I would add to that.
And I think that's a really good topic that you just really scratch the surface on that I think we can dive into here a little bit, which is, understanding that, yes, there is a certain element and a layer of patience that you need when, you're on your hustle, you're on your grind and whatnot. But also what's really important about it is, again, being able to navigate it, because anything and everything, right, can be a red flag or a green flag, right? Just depending on how you look at it, right? Presidential election is one prime example that just recently passed, right? It's like, it could be a massive red flag because it's like a lot of uncertainty, or it could be uncertainty means that there's going to be opportunity, which means that one way or another, there's going to be ways you can position yourself in which you're going to be able to come out on top. And so it's really extremely important, that you have some type of community and some type of either mentorship, or at least, folks that are on your level, but on the same wavelength, moving in sort of a very similar direction, trying to figure out and navigate the pathway in a similar space. So that's one thing that I've definitely been really happy with the group, is that everybody's on that similar wavelength where, again, we're all eyes focused in a certain direction, but we all have very valuable inputs and insights that we can give to each other in order to help each other best navigate situations for ourselves, right? Where, again, for some people, you may hate crypto and the entire idea of crypto, but it could make you a bit of money, right? From our perspective. So that may be something that you look into that could help you out. But again, there are other multitudes of ways in which you can go about, making your own way through this life. But you really do need to find some guys that are very, very much on that similar focus and on that similar wavelength in order to really help you overcome a lot of the challenges, or just give you a heads up on different potential opportunities that are coming your way that you might miss. And I think that's one thing I really like about the group, is with the diverse perspectives that we have. Because, again, there have been conversations that we've had either in webinars or in our own private, members chat where, I've missed a particular opportunity because I just was super busy and wasn't paying too much attention to the news, where HUDs will bring it up and I'm like, oh, that actually is really something of interest that I should look into. Or, Kevin will say, hey, I've been looking and eyeing this for the last couple months, guys. This seems interesting. Like, at the very least, take a look into it. So, being able to have that early warning system, or be able to have that, hey, maybe look in this direction or look in this direction. You're not really going to get that on your own or solo. So I'd ask questions you guys. Kevin, how was your journey into discovering, because you've done very well for yourself on your career, but can you give an example, or maybe a quick little story around how you were not quite sure where there may be an opportunity for yourself, and then a mentor of yours came along, or somebody pointed out something that hadn't even crossed your mind, and then wound up working out pretty well for you?
Yeah, I've got a really good story on that. If you don't know my background, I am an Army veteran. I was active duty for several years, still in the reserve. So I do it part-time. Just couldn't give it all the way up. However, if you're familiar with the military and how it works, when you reach a certain point, you go what they call in depth. Instead of signing 3-year contracts, 4-year contracts, the next one, you go in depth when you hit mid-career. And I had reached that point on my active duty career. And I remember the second time I was in Iraq, I was talking with a younger guy. I was a young NCO at the time. He was a young junior enlisted from California. And he said he was getting out. And I was laser focused on, well, if you're in the military, you're supposed to do your 20, 25 years, get that retirement and get out. And I was like, well, why are you going to get out? He was like, this ain't living. And it didn't even strike me at the time, but when I came up to go in depth, I thought about that. He said, this ain't living, because I wasn't extremely happy. Now, I wasn't unhappy in the military. I'm not one of those guys that is going to say the Army did this to me. The Army gave me a lot of things. It really did. However, when I reached that point, I was early 30s, mid 30s, divorced, and getting by, paying my bills, having a couple thousand in the bank, you know, still paying my mortgage, still paying my truck payment, all that, what everybody does. And it came time to think, okay, am I going to sign this in def and stay in another 10 years? Or am I going to get out and start my own path? And I will tell you, that's one time I had to really reach inside myself and only listen to myself, because I'm at the point now, if I would have stuck with it, I don't know where I would be, but I would have a couple $1,000s in a pension coming from the military. But I decided to get out because I listened to myself. And it was by far the best decision I ever made, because the day I signed out of the Army, I was at new employment orientation with a large, very large company that had a large opportunity. That company, I was with them for 6 years. I got to go overseas, making well over 6 figures, tax-free, seeing the world, doing good things. And now I'm with another company that's paying me very well just to work with this. And I wouldn't have had those opportunities if I would have stayed in the Army and just stayed what everybody else thought I was supposed to do to get my pension. And then maybe I would have been one of those guys that got out of the Army and said, oh man, the Army screwed me this, and my back hurts. It still does, but I'm going to get compensated for that. But my PTSD, blah, 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 all this bullshit. And they just bitch about their life because of what the Army did. But I made the decision at that point to start my own path. And that's what I did, and started living my life on my terms. Because when you're in the military, anybody veteran that's seeing this, you know, in the military, even generals do not live life on their terms. And I started living my life on my terms, and I haven't been happier. I couldn't be more happy with the decision I made. That's the best story I could come up with what you were asking, Josh. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I mean, getting to travel overseas and not be shot at is kind of nice, you know. You got any stories in there around opportunities that you seized for yourself that somebody else was able to point you in the right direction on?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's interesting because it was at the last company I worked at, and this is no shame on any previous managers, but at the time he was the best manager I ever had. And we would have some of those longer conversations where it could be like an hour or something, whether it be in his office or just over Teams, and communicate about certain things. And one of the things that he helped me with a lot, and he was one of those where he didn't want to get in any drama, so he didn't necessarily want to share any private information for sake of that. But that also was a good quality of him. But it's because he was like, so he had everything figured out in his head. And I'm getting somewhere with this, because what he taught me is you need to pay attention to how you're communicating with others. And so what he explained to me because I would seek guidance from him, because he saw a lot in me. And I think actually he may have been the first one to come to me to tell me what he saw and tell me where he thinks I can go. But then he couldn't tell me get out on, it was like his rule. He couldn't say stuff like that on company grounds. It needs to be like off the company, which that's a whole different story that I'm not, it totally makes sense, but I don't want to dox anything. So essentially what he had told me is some people have complained that you come across too aggressive. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm not, like, we're just trying to get things done. They have deadlines that they're missing. Like, what am I supposed to do? And he kept pushing that, like, how you're presenting the message. And what I found fascinating, especially with what occurred with this election, like, my girl voted for Kamala. And she almost wanted to lie to me that she did that. And I'm like, don't lie to me. Like, what's up? Like, why? I'm curious. And she said it was because of the tone that she had. I asked my family, my mom, my sister both voted Kamala. And I asked why. Because of the tone that she had, or the tone that he had, that nobody liked his tone. And everything kind of matches up in my head now. Understanding what my previous boss had shared with me about like people thinking I'm aggressive, even if I'm not being aggressive, but it's the way that I'm speaking that can be off-putting to people. And I think that that was probably one of the greatest things that when I landed in this new role, I just was able to succeed because I understand that now. And especially with the type of culture that I'm working with, aggressive is not going to work. So quite honestly, I think that him having to pull me aside a couple times, me asking some questions and getting that really transformed my outlook on life. And I think that it really the thing to drive home with it is think about like how you're presenting yourself to others, because we don't always think about like tone, right? We're saying words. It's like, well, I said that, but how are those words going to be understood on the other side?
Yeah, and I mean that's really, it's good where you can again take something that right might seemingly like offend you, right? Where it's like, me, what, like, because oftentimes when we get some type of criticism, right, it's not always pleasant, or it's not always the thing we want to hear at the time. But going back to your earlier point, Hudson, right, exercising a little bit of patience just to say, okay, what is this person actually communicating, and then looking objectively at it and being able to say, oh, okay, actually, now that I'm seeing this pattern, not only from what I'm hearing from one source, I'm seeing this pattern elsewhere. That's exactly where the opportunity lies for a little self-improvement, where instead of, just going with how I initially, react off my gut, taking a little bit of time to pause and just go, oh, okay, this is how it could be perceived, even though this is not my intention. So that way you make a little bit of an adjustment. So that way your message translates a lot more effectively, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with
100%.
Taking other people's perspective serious instead of taking offense to it. And once you learn to master that skill to be able to communicate, if somebody's trying to, because like you said, Huds, he came to you saying, people are saying, almost like he didn't want a confrontation because that's what he thought he was going to get. But then when you show him that, okay, yeah, I can be talked to and I can be reasoned with, and I can keep an open mind, especially about myself, I think that's a very good trick or virtue for a man to learn.
Yeah. And, again, as much as we want to think that, we have magical internal crystal balls that know anything, everything, and all things, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot that we just don't know. And a lot of times, like, we have to move slightly differently, because there's definitely been times for me where, I've been on a hot streak and doing really well. And then suddenly things aren't working out the same way that they were. So it's like, okay, I got to slightly adjust how I'm moving, how I'm operating. And so being open to that feedback, or, to that criticism, just to look for, again, opportunities. And opportunities don't just mean necessarily opportunities for, making a loads of cash, which there are plenty of those out there, but opportunities for self-improvement, right? And just, again, making your life even better, because there's always a way in which you can improve or fine tune, or you can tweak, or things that you can, work on that you didn't even realize at times. So it's funny how when you get a little bit older and back in I look back by myself, like when I was in when I turned 30, and it was like everything I did magically turned to gold. And I look at myself back back then, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that guy was asleep at the wheel, because a couple of 5 years later, he would wind up doing way, way, way better than he ever thought he would be able to do. So, that's where you really have to take a little bit of that objective self-reflection. But, it's there is a lot of opportunity out there. And again, just being open and keeping it to the ground. I mean, I had a mentor of mine 15 years ago once told me that, pay attention to the energy markets, because the price of energy is expected to quadruple over the next 15 years or so. And I was like, interesting. If that's true, or at least something that is rumbling and has some potential, maybe there's a way to position myself to do fairly well, or at least capitalize and take advantage of certain trends when certain waves go up. So, life really is all about that positioning, how you position yourself. And so you really, really want to strategically position yourself in the best position possible in order to win.
Yeah. Yeah. And listening to people that have been there, you don't have to always take their advice, but at least research it. One of our closed meetings, I mentioned, I'm not going to mention any specific funds, ETFs, or anything like that. But remember, we talked about one that if Trump won, it might do well. And so far it has been, but it has to do with energy. If you want to learn more, don't be afraid to reach out to me, but I am never going to give specific financial advice. The last thing I want to do is one of our members or somebody out there say, hey, you told me to do this and I did this and lost everything. I will never tell you to invest everything in any one thing anyways. But, there is a certain advantage that you can take to listen to people that have been there, done that, or people that are doing that. And that's where I learned a lot of lessons the hard way when I started my investing, because I read a couple of books and started throwing money here and there. And then, I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. So you can learn from my lessons, which is the best way to do it. But when it comes to that, if you have somebody that you can trust and you think their advice is sound, always do your own research, but maybe listen to them. There's a lot of knowledge out there, and there's a lot of ways to, if you're patient and you have the discipline to put a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there over time, you will see that it was well worth it. Now, get rich quick. Hey, some people do it, but it's about 1% of the people that try it. But if you stay tried and true with patience and diligence and discipline, this doesn't have to just be investing. It can be with working out. It can be with bettering yourself. Nothing's going to change you overnight. But if you're consistent with it, you have a passion for it, you have a love for it, and you really want it, you'll take the time to get to where you want to be. And believe it or not, when you look back on it and you get there, it didn't take that long at all.
Yeah, and that's a really good thing that you brought in there is, if you want to vet someone that to know if they're trustworthy or know what they're talking about. Again, always look at the receipts, right? Or just look at the history, right? So, again, for us, if you think we're full of BS and we don't know what we're talking about, rewind the clock and just go back. Look at all of our prior streams and our prior podcasts and topics and discussions that we've had. A lot of stuff has worked out very well and has happened in the direction that has been pointed. Or, for example, if you go to the gym, right, and you're trying to get shredded and get six-pack abs, if you see a 300-pound guy with his belly spilling over his shorts, and he's going to tell you, hey, man, I'm going to get you in the best shape of your life. Would you really believe that guy could get you in the best shape of your life? Or if you saw a guy that was absolutely shredded, full 8-pack, everything, and was saying hey, I could teach you a thing or two, you'd probably go with the guy that's fully shredded because you can see the proof, right? You can see the receipts. So again, always look for receipts with anybody when you're trying to see if they're going to be trustworthy or not. And again, especially nowadays, the whole wealth and flash and all that stuff, it's really easy to, put up a bit of a front on that issue. So do a little bit more deep diving, just take a little bit more a peek behind the scenes, or at least look more at the track record and be like, hey, so for example, when people ask me hey, what's a good channel to watch on cryptocurrency? I say, if you want to do is find whoever, you think has an interesting voice, but watch their stuff backwards and just take little chunks where it's hey, I watched something and I watched something from 6 months ago and something from 6 months before that and something from 6 months before that. Just watch little things backwards to see if, hey, do they just go with the trends that sound great? Or were they staying consistent with the message and they actually were pointing you in the right direction? So speaking on that, though, I do have a question for you guys, and I will start with HUDs on this one. For the upcoming year, 2025, what are some areas that people want to consider looking into so that way they can position themselves in order to capitalize on this interesting shift that we're going to be seeing coming at least easily within the first 6 months of 25?
Do you mean economically, or in what aspect specifically are you looking for?
I will say, it's kind of open-ended, however you want to take it, because there's a lot. There's economic, there's cultural, there's, definitely on the career side as well. Like there's a lot of different areas and avenues where there could be some shifts. So I'd say from your perspective, where you're sitting, what's one thing that someone should be paying attention to from any part of the broader sphere?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I will go ahead and take the dating aspect of it. I don't know if you guys have seen, but they have that they're bringing the whole 4B thing, or at least girls are complaining about it on TikTok. The 4B movement is essentially a South Korean movement to not have sex, not date men, and just essentially go celibate. So I kind of was thinking about it, and it's like, if certain women are going to act like that, uh, I mean, you're now seeing the writing on the walls of how crazy certain subsects of America are, because it doesn't make any sense. Because if you think about it, let's do some logic here, okay? So you wanted Kamala because you wanted the rights of abortion to be back to federal, so it was free reign instead of your individual community's decision. Okay. So we're talking about abortion rights. So your argument against it then is to just not have sex. Well, we don't need abortions then, right? We're good to go. We don't need abortions if you're not having sex. So okay, I guess that joke didn't land with you guys. You guys weren't paying attention.
No.
We're seeing where you're going with it.
Passionate that I would get on this subject. So if you're seeing this right now, we've got our topic for next week. Yeah, that's my tick rubbing my cat, because you get me passionate when you bring up
I know
movement and all this other stuff. And that's gonna be scorcher, guys. Y'all, please
I
tune
can't
in next
wait.
week.
Bring your flame retardant suits, guys. It's gonna get hot.
But it really is. The logic is just not there, and it blows my mind. And so what I think, one of those areas of improvement, if you're a guy who's been struggling with dating or anything else like that, like maybe now is the best time to really discover what your frame really can be. I mean, that's what this is going to look like. You're going to have a lot of angry people with what's going on, even if they're not fully educated on everything and what the impacts of it all is. I know I dated a staunch feminist. I think I told this story maybe last week even. I dated a woman who was crazy into the feminism stuff, and she had like a Wonder Woman poster on her wall next to her bed. And so like every time we dated for a year. It's like every time I slept over, and I just looked over and I saw that, I just kind of gave her a thumbs up. It really was. It was just bizarre. And you're going to deal with a lot of conflicting opinions. You're going to deal with a lot of women that lean very far one way or very far the other. But you can really work on your frame, and you can also work on being maybe a little bit more accepting. Because when I think about it, they're pushing out right now that there has to be a bunch of, like, the Democrats right now seem to be pushing out a entire thing of election fraud. And it's like, this is the same thing that happened back in 2020. So Trump says the same thing that you guys are saying, but he's bad. Like, what are we doing here? So I think that this is maybe an opportunity for you to see the forest through the trees, maybe to identify rational people that are good to have in your circle versus the irrational that really maybe it is time to move away from them. I really think that that's the growth that can happen, is how to handle conflicting mindsets, and then also and through that developing frame, as well as maybe even if it means making your circle a little bit smaller, maybe we clean up that circle.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. But to your point, Josh, something to start paying attention to. I'm going to say, we're mainly a men's channel, but I know as we grow, females and women are going to see this. This goes for everybody. It's the things to stop paying attention to. That's like the mainstream news. It's one-sided either way nowadays. Stop filling your day or your breaks at work or your feeds on TikTok with that garbage, because that's what it is. And that's, that they say, okay, depending on who you talk to, the government divides the citizens. And then you'll talk to somebody else. Well, the media divides the citizens. No, you know who divides each other? We do. Me thinking that it's okay for me to tell somebody else they're wrong because they think differently than I created that divide. They didn't. So I would say the thing to stop paying attention to is the thing that's in our face the most. And that's all the different opinions, all the different extremes of each side. Start living your life. You guys, hey, newsflash, we only get one of these. Do you really want to live it pissed off as a victim, or pissed off at your government because they're not giving what you think they should give you? Or do you realize we live in the greatest fucking country in the world? USA is still the GOAT. You will never convince me otherwise, where we have the opportunity to live our life on our terms. Let's start doing that instead of getting caught up and paying attention to what everybody else is trying to push on us. Because we're all our own people, male, female, gay, straight, whatever you want to call it. We're all our own people. So let's stop getting caught up and paying attention to the stuff that doesn't really matter.
No, it's very, very well said. And yeah, I think that's, some really good points that you guys brought up there, which, for going into next year is definitely a lot of opportunity everywhere. I think in every aspect of life, whether it's from, dating, in which case, you look back and a lot of people have been frustrated with the whole dating market for the last 20 years. So there's a lot of opportunity there for yourself. But also too, with just being able to kind of forge your own pathway. And so, there's the important thing is that you definitely are going to need to surround yourself with very like-minded individuals, but also you're really going to need to pay attention, because there's just so many different clues out there continuously being told to you, and the opportunities are there. But, mark my words, I guarantee you a lot of money is going to be made across the board in 2025. Amen. So, will you be able to take a part of it? But there's also not just money. There's also a lot of different life opportunity, whether it's opportunity to travel, opportunity to upgrade your health, upgrade your relationships. There's going to be lots and lots of opportunity. So, 2024 is kind of known as the year of chaos, which has been rang pretty true. But I think 2025 will be that year of opportunity. And so, how are you positioning yourself to capitalize on that? So I think we've covered this topic really well and in depth. So I'll turn it to you guys for the final thoughts before I send us out here. So I will go in reverse order, and I'll go with our big brother Kevin over here.
No, I think that's a great point. Instead of saying, capitalize, just set yourself up. The moves you can start making now that's going to pay dividends 5 years from now. And, that's the if you start looking at it like that, believe it or not, time starts moving slower. If you only worry about what you can do tomorrow and how you can advance tomorrow comes very quickly and it leaves very quickly. But if you started planning 5 years out of where I can be or where I can set myself up, time's actually starts moving slower. I just this is going to be my last part on this, and I'm going to swing back to what we started. We did a webinar not too long ago, well, about a year ago, I think, Josh, where we talked about Bitcoin. There's big things coming, and it happened. I just signed a contract to build a new house about 2 weeks ago. And when I was asked for the deposit, I asked the builder, or I asked the agent, ask the builder if they'll take Bitcoin for the deposit. And he's like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe he will. So in the meantime, I have several Ballet wallets. I threw 3,200 sats, which is my deposit, just to start the build, on one of my Ballet wallets. He didn't take it. He wanted a check, which I happily wrote him, already cashed it. If he would have taken that $3,200 about 2 weeks ago in Ballet Bitcoin, it won't be able to focus fast enough. It would be worth $4,323 as of right now. So that shows you how sometimes when somebody offers you or somebody brings up an idea, it might be worth it. So that's what I'll say about that. And now he's got a check. He got his $3,200 to get the build started. There's a lot more coming after that, but it shows you that sometimes the person that's trying to offer you something, you might want to dig deep and look into it because it might be a better opportunity than a check worth $3,200 and 3 cents worth of paper.
Agreed. Agreed. I like that. I like that. Huds, what's the final thoughts there, my man?
Oh man, my final thoughts on everything here. DCA, and also DCA. What I really learned from this whole thing is when you try and watch markets so heavily and you try and guess what's going to happen and you try and make money, whether it be in crypto, stocks, you trying to do options trading. Yes, there's times it can really work out, but you got to be really, really, really sure. Nothing fails when you go ahead and patiently DCA. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed that when I DCA is that, you just set up those weekly recurring buys, you let it build, you let it grow, and then I'm not stressed out. And it actually improves my relationship with those I care about. It improves the relationship with my family. I'm not as on edge. I don't have to be watching things all times just to make sure I'm pulling triggers at the right points. Like it really does. It improves just your overall well-being. And as Kevin was saying, it really does. It like slows time down, but it doesn't slow time down in a bad way. It just kind of frees you. It frees you. You make money, and you can enjoy and explore other ventures in life. So really what's going on right now and what's going to come in 2025 is going to be nothing short of just an amazing, glorious golden time. Just be smart about it and definitely investigate everything that pops up. Definitely investigate anybody who's trying to give you advice. And just, also have fun with it. This is a time of evolution. It's almost like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And we've already seen that beginning to occur.
Very, very well said. Very well said. And yeah, my final thoughts on it is, guys, when it comes to opportunities, the time to pack your bags and put them on the airplane is when the airplane is sitting there in the terminal, right? When it's starting to taxi on the runway, you're really running behind. Once it starts taking off the runway, that's the easiest way to get wrecked, and you're not going to catch it. So, take a look at things that are, flights that are imminently going to take off, and start packing your bags and, getting your boarding on there. So that way you can just sit there, be calm, sip your beverage, watch a movie while the airplane takes off and does what it does. But, 2025 will definitely be a year of opportunities. So it's going to be very important to, get your circle together and get it in order, as well as to just be paying attention out there. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of guys out there that will try and sell you snake oil and whatnot. But again, just investigate people, look at their receipts, and look at what they've been saying and if they've been consistent and if they've been consistently right. So that's the big tidbits that we got for you guys. But want to express our sincere thanks for you guys that tune in, and for those of you that catch us every week, but also for those of you guys that catch us on the replay. Definitely greatly appreciate it. And, be sure to follow us here and, reach out to us if you have any interest. And again, learning a little bit more firsthand about a lot of these different opportunities, because again, we've been talking about a lot of this stuff behind closed doors for a while. So it's been good, and there's a lot more awesome stuff coming. So again, if you don't believe us, like at this point now, go back and look at some of the other things that we've been saying earlier. There's a lot more to come over this next year that we're really excited about. So again, always love to have like-minded folks on board with the journey towards that success and just making better improvements in their lives. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. And we will catch you guys on the next stream.
Yeah, next stream when Kevin goes full Super Saiyan talking about the 4B movement.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll go and apologize now for the F-bombs that are going to come out. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's something that I am very concerned about that some people want to put labels on something that doesn't exist. That seems to be the norm nowadays, is if something happens, let's put a label on it and then we can claim it as a movement. And yeah, then this one is the biggest bullshit wannabe movement you'll ever talk about. We will talk about. So I hope you tune in. If you're new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe. If you have a topic you want us to talk about, you think we can bring good content with it, drop it in the comment section. We'll check it out. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Strong and wild, we rise up high. Conquer fears, won't let them reside. Heartbeats pound as we take the dive. Living now feels so